Hello, thank you for participating in this year's SWRI webinar for the 14th National Stand Down for Fall Protection. This event is a great opportunity to get your team thinking the right way. We should all be disappointed and angry that we know the number one killer of our workforce, falls, but we have not come close to winning the fight against that same killer because it remains the number one killer year after year. If we know it's the top way our people are killed, we should be entirely united and completely dedicated to protecting our families from losing one more life to falls. This week is all about that idea. Enough is enough. This year, our speaker is Andrew Turner, whom I've had the pleasure of getting to know a bit over the past few years through the SWRI Safety Committee. He brings a great deal of integrity and industry knowledge, and we asked him to present because he truly respects and understands frontline safety in construction and waterproofing. Our topic this year is ladders, because ladder falls account for 1 out of every 4 fatal falls in construction. That's really because there's usually no backup system, and they're really easy to use the wrong way. In other words, if you use this presentation the right way, we can reduce 25% of the fatal falls in our industry. We hope you will enjoy the presentation, and we hope you will remember that all falls are preventable. If you see someone unprotected or unsafe, stop the work and tell a supervisor. It can be the difference between life and death. Thank you and enjoy.
Thank you, Carlos. Good morning. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Before we get started, I wanted to remind everyone of the important steps that take place during and after your stand down. We have been an alliance partner with OSHA for 22 years, and this year OSHA asked us to be a premier partner of their 2025 stand down. So we are very proud to be an alliance partner and a premier partner this year. So a few reminders for the stand down. We would greatly appreciate if everyone would share their stories with us, meaning if you have any photos or videos from your stand down, please send those directly to me. Plus, don't forget to tag us on our LinkedIn and Instagram. You can use the hashtag stand down for safety. Plus, what's also another very important step that we would like you to complete is you can download a sign-in sheet from our OSHA stand down page, which you can find on our homepage. It is under the safety resources tab and it's labeled stand down. So you can download that sign-in sheet, email those sign-in sheets directly to me. Those numbers are very important and we report those stand down numbers to OSHA. And then at the end of the week on Friday, May 5th, you can go to OSHA's stand down landing page to download a digital certificate of participation. So before I turn this over to Andy, I did want to do a reminder of a few initiatives that we have coming up. We have our safety professionals meeting via Zoom that will take place on Wednesday, May 14th. And then we have another safety professionals call via Zoom that will take place on Wednesday, July 16th. If you would like to receive the meeting request invite for that call on Wednesday, May 14th, just shoot me an email and I will get you added. And then a quick save the date, Construction Suicide Prevention Week is September 8th through the 12th. And SWR Institute will kick off this week with a recorded virtual webinar on Monday, September 8th, featuring Kara McCaffrey, who is the Chief Wellness Officer at Houken Company and Vice Chair of the Construction Suicide Prevention Week National Committee. Now I'll turn it over to this year's stand down webinar speaker, Andy Turner, who has 20 years experience in masonry restoration and is the Safety Quality Assurance Manager at Lupini Construction. All right, take it away, Andy. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole, Carlos, and SWRI for facilitating this webinar today. Today we're going to talk about portable ladders in construction. So let's give it a go. Okay, each year there are more than 164,000 emergency room treated injuries and 300 deaths in the US that are caused by falls from ladders. Most ladder deaths are from falls of 10 feet or less. Falls from ladders are the leading cause of deaths on construction sites. So we're all here today participating in this national stand down to try and reduce these numbers and to educate ourselves on the safety best practices. And my hope is that by doing this presentation, others like it, that helps in that regard, because I believe that all of these tragedies can be avoided. Okay. So with that being said, let's take a look at some ladders. All right, we're going to look at two types of ladders today, both of them being of the fiberglass version. We have an extension ladder and we have a step ladder. Okay, so we'll start with the extension ladder. The extension ladder typically comes in sizes from 16 feet to 40 feet. Typically two pieces. You have a base section and a fly section, as it's called. It extends up and retracts via a rope and a pulley system. Over on the other side, we have a step ladder. So the step ladder, or A-frame ladder, as it's commonly called, has steps on one side and braces on the other. Size range is usually 4 feet to 20 feet. Occasionally, you'll see these step ladders with steps on both sides. You just want to make sure that that's actually what you're dealing with and that you're using it appropriately. We do have some variations on step ladders out there that we're seeing. And here they are. Two of these. One is a podium style ladder. This prohibits the user from climbing up the ladder too far, so they're not stepping on that last rung or the cap. And it also provides a really good stable surface to work from. The other ladder that we're seeing often these days is a lean safe type ladder, and this can be used in two configurations, one being the standard A-frame or step ladder configuration, or it can also be leaned up against a wall to do work. So those are pretty nice, and I think we'll be seeing more of those in the future. The other thing that we're looking at with our ladders, both of these have duty ratings. So you can see that the duty ratings go from 200 pounds all the way up to 375 pounds. So for the purpose of construction, what we're really looking for are the ladders that are in the 300-pound range to 375. Typically, the 300-pound range is what you see. The reason for that is that you want to accommodate the weight of the worker as well as the weight of any materials or tools that might be on that ladder as well. Okay. So moving on, we'll take a look at some factors that contribute to falls. The first one that comes to mind for me is going to be that ladders simply have no mechanisms for fall protection. So there's no guardrails, typically no tie-offs. So when using a portable ladder, our safety is entirely dependent on the safe setup and usage of those ladders. So that kind of brings us on to our next factor, which would be improper setup. So some examples of improper setup would be setting the ladder up on unstable ground or inadequate support. Another factor would be improper use or unsafe use. So using a ladder for purposes other than it was intended. So standing on the top of the top rung or the cap, leaning a step ladder against a wall, things like that. Next would be lack of inspections. You're required to do periodic inspections on your ladder. They should be done before you use the ladder, after the ladder, or anytime there was potential for damage or impact. So if you find another factor that would contribute to falls would be lack of training or no training. You don't know what you don't know, right? So employers are required to train their employees on the safe use of ladders. So if you're an employer, please train your employees. If you're an employee, please get trained. And then complacency. Complacency, I think, is common across the construction industry, and a lot of the tasks that we do. You know, things become commonplace when you do them day in and day out, and you might not think too much about just simply climbing up a 6-foot step ladder and doing a simple task. But when you look at the statistics and the amount of falls that are happening from, under 30 feet, it begs to differ that they are dangerous, all these tasks, and we need to have our intentions firmly focused on what we're doing. Okay, so there's complacency. And then simply no plan in place to work safely. So Benjamin Franklin said, those who fail to plan to fail. Yeah. So that's a good adage for a lot of things in life. And I believe that applies to our construction industry as well. So, maybe consider a site safety plan where you're looking at the job, the whole job in general. You're pinpointing your hazards, all your tasks, you're seeing the hazards, and then you're making controls for those hazards. Same thing goes for JSAs or THAs. You have your job task, you have your hazard, and we're going to try to make controls. Again, have you been trained? Very important. If you haven't, what are you doing? So what are some on-site hazards? On-site hazards going to be things like power lines you want to be looking for, traffic areas, inclement weather, or simultaneous activities in the work area. You know, we all work on multi-employer work sites. Oftentimes there's a lot of stuff going on. A good example would be if you're working on a ladder in front of a doorway, you know, especially if that ladder opens out, that doorway, or excuse me, if that door opens out, that doorway should be temporarily closed, blocked, and some signage should be put out perhaps. And then the next thing is, are ladders appropriate for the scope of work? Maybe they're not the best tool for the job. You need to be looking at that too. Maybe there's something that you could use that would be safer and more appropriate for the task that you're doing. Okay, so that leads us to ladder inspections. So having a ladder inspection checklist is a good way to ensure that ladder inspections are completed thoroughly and that they're documented. But if you don't have a ladder inspection checklist available, please take time and be methodical in checking every part of that ladder. So starting from the base, you want to check all the parts. So, you know, in the case of an extension ladder, you're going to want to look at the shoe assembly, the foot pads, the locks, the rung locks are very important. Make sure the springs are operable and that they are not bent. Go all the way up one side, looking at the rail for any defects, any cracks, dents in the rungs. Same thing. Go all the way to the end cap. Make sure that end cap is in place. All the fasteners are there, and then turn that ladder over and go right back down the other side. Same thing goes for step ladders. You want to be looking at first the anti-skid shoe. Make sure that that's there on the bottom. All the brackets and fasteners are there and intact. There's no slippery substances on the stairs. Again, all the ladder rails are in good shape. There's no cracks. There's no broken pieces. Check the top cap of your step ladders and make sure those aren't cracked. Oftentimes those are made out of plastic, so it's a good thing to check. And then if you find any deficiencies, make sure that you tag and remove any damaged ladder from the site immediately. Okay, we don't want anybody to mistakenly use that broken ladder. And if ladders cannot be appropriately repaired, they must be destroyed and disposed of. Okay, don't keep those around. So along with the inspections, we have proper care and maintenance. You should be periodically maintaining your ladder. So same thing applies. You're going to do an inspection on that ladder. You're going to check joints, test hardware and fittings, lubricate moving parts. I will say when you lubricate the parts, make sure that you're not getting any of that lubricant on any of the rungs or stairs that can create a hazard. Replace worn rope or on extension ladders. Make sure safety feet are in good condition. Clean the rungs and steps. Okay. Next, we're going to look at extension ladder setup and use. So you see this gentleman in the photo here. What we're looking for with ladder setup is an angle of 75.5 degrees. That is determined to be the safest angle to use a ladder at. A good way to think about that, though, an easier way is for every 4 foot of vertical rise that the ladder is extended, you want to be extended out horizontally 1 foot. So that's a 4-to-1 ratio. And you can see in this photo, the gentleman here has his feet planted at the base of the ladder and his arms are outreached roughly shoulder length with his palms touching that rung that's nearest to his shoulder length. I have a little video here if I can bring it up. It's just a video of me showing a safe way to stand up a ladder against a building and then to check for that ratio. Okay, so let me bring that up if you bear with me a minute here. Hey, that's me. Okay, so I'm standing the ladder up and I'm just going to walk those rungs down like monkey bars. Once the ladder hits the building, I'm going to start to pull it back. And now I'm going to start looking for that 4-to-1 ratio. Pretty good, a little bit more. Okay, right there, I'm looking to see that those top rungs are hitting the building equally. I'm going to undo the rope. So with one hand, I'm going to push the rungs up, and with the other arm, I'm going to use the rope. And I'm putting my foot at the base to resist any outward motion on the base. Withstand, I should say, sorry. So there you go. After I do that, I'm gonna recheck the base and the top, look for those rung locks, make sure they're engaged. And there it is, a little bit short, sorry about that. So I'll go back to the PowerPoint. Continuing proper setup. If you're using a ladder where you're gonna be using it as access for an upper level, you should have the top and the bottom secured from movement. So you see here in these photos, we have the bottom portion of that ladder is fully secured and at the top is secured. All right. So when you have a ladder extended above a roof line, let's say, or an access point, you want to make sure that you have 3 feet extended past the working surface. Okay. Minimum 3 feet always. And whenever you're exiting a ladder onto it and, off a ladder onto a roof or something, make sure that you're stepping to the side to access. Do not try to climb over that ladder, okay, when you're accessing the roof or scaffold. All right, so we've got some hazards here with extension ladders. We can see one of these are going to be, unstable conditions. So when we're looking at setting up a ladder, we want to look for all hazards, right? Have you read and do you understand the labels is the first one. So those labels are part of the design of that ladder. They're meant to give you information on how to set up that ladder and the loads and the reach capacity of those ladders. So also, I should have said this back in the inspection portion, make sure that those labels are also there when you're inspecting the ladders. A lot of the manufacturers provide those labels as replacements, so you can get those if they're worn off your ladders. Don't throw them out. Is the ladder set on firm and level surface? You can see here the situation where they're working on maybe stairs, something like that. It's not obtainable. You never want to use blocking because it can easily become displaced. This ladder extender or ladder leveler is a much better way to get that done. Outside in the dirt, possibly you may have to do some digging, compact that, make it firm before you access with the ladder. Is the ladder set up at the correct angle? And that's the 4-to-1 angle we just saw there. Are both side rails evenly supported? That's top and bottom. Is the ladder the correct length? You don't want to use a ladder that's shorter than what you need. You might be compelled to climb up it a little bit further than you should. Are the rung locks secured? Very important. Does the ladder extend 3 feet above the next working level? Is the ladder appropriately secured against movement? And our points of access and egress clear of all debris or tripping hazards. That's very important as well. You don't want to exit a ladder and immediately trip, or if you're transferring to a scaffold or a roof, have that happen to you. So with step ladders, we have some hazards similar. Look for hazards. Do you barricade or sign? Is the duty rating correct for the job? Is the ladder the correct height? Is the ladder set on a firm and level surface? Are the rungs free of dirt, grease, or contaminants? And are the spreaders locked? And always, hazards, overhead power lines. Absolutely. So we're going to go into safe use of extension ladders. We got some do's and don'ts here. So we have maintain 3 points of contact at all time. That's either two hands, 1 foot, or 2 feet, 1 hand. Face the ladder when you're climbing and descending and when you're doing work. Keep the body inside the rails. You don't want to be leaning outside and have a tip over that happens. Use care when getting on or off. Never carry tools in your hands while climbing. Use a tool belt or have a tow line. In the case of a smaller step ladder, something like that, you can have somebody hand tools up to you just as long as they're not climbing the ladder at the same time you are. Extend the ladder 3 feet above the landing. Keep free of slippery materials. Secure your ladder for movement. And the do nots. Do not place on unstable surfaces. Do not use a ladder on soft or unstable ground. Do not exceed the load rating. Do not tie ladders together to gain height. Never ignore overhead power lines, minimum of 10 feet there, depending on the voltage. Move or shift the ladder while people or equipment are on it. Never lean out beyond the ladder side rails and use an extension ladder horizontally like a platform. You would exceed the rating. It would be greatly diminished pretty quickly. And then for step ladders, very similar again. The do's: look for overhead power lines, maintain 3 points of contact, stay near the middle of the ladder and face the ladder while climbing down or up. Use barricades to keep traffic away from ladders. Do not use for a purpose other than what it is designed for. Use the spreaders unlocked. Use the top step or cap as a step. Place the ladder on soft or unstable surfaces. Move or shift the ladder with people or equipment on it. Use the bracing for climbing. Remember, there's steps on a step ladder and there's bracing. Okay, use the correct one. You never want to paint your ladders with opaque coatings. You could be covering up some damage there. Leave tools. It's supposed to say tools and materials on a step ladder. Never want to do that because you could move it, forget about them, or someone else could move it and they could damage themselves in that way. Use a metal step ladder near power lines or electrical equipment. So the next thing is get yourself trained. So employers, again, you are required to train your employees on the safe use of ladders, and employees, it'd be worth your while to get trained. So for any materials that you'd like to find for training your people, some good resources would be the American Ladder Institute or good old OSHA. Okay. So in closing, I would say just plan to be safe in all aspects of construction and in setting up your ladders. Inspect your ladders regularly before you set them up, preferably. Set up and work safely, and then get trained. And with that, thank you and be safe. Have a good day. Bye-bye.